Dear students, welcome to the course Science of Consciousness in Ancient India, and this is lecture 12. As I explained you that we are focusing on the 6 systems, Nyaya Vaisheshik, Sankhya Yoga, then Vedanta and Kashmir Shaiva Darshan. So I will begin from Nyaya Vaisheshik. So today we are going to deal with the systems Nyaya Vaisheshik. First of all, there is a brief background, that means introduction. What is Nyaya, what is Vaisheshik? So Nyaya is the system of logic. I have explained this previously also. And most significant contribution of this system is causation theory and logic. So if you are being asked in the examination, the contribution of Nyaya system is the presentation of logic and causation theory, because causation theory is based on the logic itself, and what it is we will discuss later in this today only. So the Nyaya system is based on logic, and that is having causation theory, and I have already explained that there are few founder scholars which are very popular. The condition is not like they are the beginners, no. If you think like with the Gautam only logic began at some point of time, no, this is not the real thing. When you are giving actually you are addressing the contribution of some scholar towards that system, then you are just identifying that he presented it systematically. That means Gautam, who is known as the founder scholar of this Nyaya system, presented this system so nicely that today we are studying it as a darshan. Clear? ऐसा नहीं है कि न्याय सिस्टम का जो लॉजिक था या जो कॉजेशन थियरी थी वो गौतम से पहले थी ही नहीं. It was there, but he presented it in a very perfect way of a system. So that means we should give him the credit to present the system in a better way to all of us. That's why he is supposed to be the founder scholar of the system. So you can see Gautam is the founder scholar of the Nyaya system and popularly known for his own compendium or composition, that is Nyaya Sutra. Because we followed the Sutra style, I told you we have 10 styles of composition, starting from the mantra, then Sutra, then mantra, then Sutra, then Vritti, then Paddhati. So these are the 10 styles I told you. So once you move from Vedic state to the current contemporary state of understanding of Indian corpus, then you are moving from the mantra style of composition towards the more simplified versions like Vartik, the last one. So after mantra, the Sutra style was popular. So Nyaya system, in Nyaya system, the you can say the perfect presentation of the system was done by Gautam in his own composition, that is Nyaya Sutra. So he laid down few of the formulas, and then those formulas became known as the Nyaya Sutras. So if you are been asked, the composition of Gautam is Nyaya Sutra. In the same way, Vaisheshik system is the system of which elaborately categorizes the existence, whatever is available right now in our surroundings, within us also and in our surroundings also, that can be categorized. So first of all, when you are going to study a great, or you can say the grand available corpus, first thing that is the demand of an individual is to classify them so that you can easily understand them. अगर आप उसको सिस्टमैटिकली क्लासीफाई कर लेंगे तो आपको समझना आसान हो जाएगा. सो द सेम थिंग इज बीइंग डन बाय द वैशेषिक स्कॉलर्स ऑल्सो. दे यूज्ड द अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द न्याय स्कॉलर्स फ्रॉम द न्याय सूत्रास, एंड देन ऑन द फंडामेंटल बैकग्राउंड ऑफ द न्याय सूत्रास they perfectly try to classify the categories of existence. So Vaisheshik system is popularly known for elaborate categorization of existence. In the same way, the same process, just like we have Nyaya Sutras for the Nyaya system, in the same way Kadad wrote Vaisheshik Sutras. Vaisheshik Sutras for the Vaisheshik system. So the same process, same style of composition was followed. Nyaya Sutra of Gautam, Vaisheshik Sutras of Kadad. The founder scholar is Kadad. So this is Gadad. After this one, you need to understand on the basis of which kind of you can say what are the possible ways to study any of the darshan. So each darshan can be studied under the following heads. First is the systematic study of the object of cognition. Second is systematic study of the means of cognition. So object of cognition and means of cognition. Object of cognition and means of cognition. These two things are very important constituents of the triangle of darshan, Prameya and Pramad. So each darshan can be studied under the two heads. First is the Tattva Mimamsa, means Prameya ki study karna. Second is epistemology, Pramad Mimamsa, means Pramad ki study karna. So if you are going to systematically understand what are the objects of cognition or Prameya Tattva, that becomes a Tattva Mimamsa, that ontology. If you are trying to understand what are the means of cognition, what are the instruments of cognition, how many types of instruments or the means are possible to cognize or to know something, then that becomes Pramad Mimamsa or epistemology. So ontology and epistemology is something which is used by the Western scholars. These are terms which are coined by the Western scholars to study the philosophy, not that for the darshan. But we can equate them with our Tattva Mimamsa and Pramad Mimamsa. Remember, they cannot be superposed. These words cannot be superposed, means exactly equivalent नहीं है. लेकिन चूंकि फिलॉसफी के डिसिप्लिन ऑन्टोलॉजी एंड एपिस्टेमोलॉजी को सेंटर में करके स्टडी करती है, सो इफ यू वांट टू हैव एन कंपैरेटिव अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ दर्शन शास्त्र एंड फिलॉसफी, यू कैन पुट देम टुगेदर टू स्टडी एज in a comparative manner. So that means when I say Tattva Mimamsa, I explained in the previous course also, HS 1317, Tattva, when you use the word Tattva, it is like Tat, then Tva. And I told you that in Sanskrit we use the suffix Tva to denote abstractness, like thatness, potness, clothness, and you cannot restrict that ness into a kind of special dimension, measurement or shape or size. So जब कोई चीज़ बहुत सटल हो जाती है तो वो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट हो जाती है, उसका परफेक्ट शेप, साइज, स्ट्रक्चर आप आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर सकते. सो इन द सेम वे इफ यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट tat means that and twa means ness. So if you are talking about that ness, that cannot be exactly equivalent to the ontology, because in ontology, if you split the word onto plus logy, logy is the systematic study of anything. Systematic study if you are doing, that is logy, and onto is representing the constituents, the elements. So here thatness is not equal to any element or constituent. Thatness is so abstract, so subtle that you cannot easily find out which kind of a structure this is possessing. आप ऑब्जेक्ट का स्ट्रक्चर, डायमेंशन, शेप समझ सकते हैं ना, ऑब्जेक्टनेस का कैसे निकालेंगे? So the problem is when we try to study darshan shastra exactly superposing it with the philosophy, there are the problems, there are the issues. सारे concepts आपको समझ में नहीं आएंगे. इसलिए for the sake of better understanding, we are focusing on the exact words which are used in the darshan shastra. So tattva mimamsa means the analytical study of the thatness, means whatever is available in existence, that may be the subtlest possible level. हो सकता है वो आपको gross sensory perception से पता ही ना चले, possibility है. So that is tattva mimamsa. Then Pramad Mimamsa. Once in the last lecture I told you that there are three entities: Pramad, Prameya, Pramata, and they are coming from the root me. Me means to measure out. So something that is measurable is denoted by the root me, and when you coin the word Pramata, Prameya, Pramada, then automatically you are going to measure out something precisely, accurately. So Pramad means you are going to use some kind of means to measure out something accurately. And if you are dealing with the analytical or descriptive or a systematic study of how to measure out something, that becomes a Praman Mimamsa. Clear? This is the possible way how we are going to enter into the disciplines of the Darshan Shastra. So, the process of manifestation is described through the metaphysics of the system. 3 points. First is ontology, epistemology. This is very dominating in the philosophy. So, we can equate it. There is another thing, third aspect also in Darshan Shastra, क्योंकि exactly equivalent नहीं है दर्शन और philosophy. इसीलिए there is a third point or third referential framework that is used in Darshan Shastra to understand whatever is being manifested or whatever is available to us, how it came into existence. So, that is understood as metaphysics. That is why the title of the previous course was Metaphysics of Sanskrit Language. Sanskrit language does not only deal with the physical aspects of the sounds or the language, dhvani, syllable, akshar or word or pad. We are trespassing the physical level. That means मंत्र ऐसी चीज़ हो गई जहाँ बहुत subtle चीज़ें dominate कर जाती हैं. That's why definition of the mantra was to bring out the hidden things. To bring out the hidden things, जिसके थ्रू आप हिडन छुपी हुई चीज़ों को भी जान जाएं, वो मंत्र है. मनन करने की वजह से मनुष्य कहलाता है, और मनन करने का मतलब contemplation. That means mantra is a kind of entity which is trespassing or going beyond the physical aspects of the sound or the language. So, here in order to understand what is the process of manifestation, how we are coming into existence is understood as a metaphysics of creation. So, we are going to focus on the 3 possible things, that is Tattva Mimamsa, Praman Mimamsa and then Srishti Prakriya or metaphysics. This metaphysics includes the necessary theories in each of the system. So, how the creation appeared, how the manifestation happened, how we are in existence, these are the postulated or you can say concluded theories available today. For the sake of a comfortable study, both the systems are clubbed together, that means Nyaya and Vaisheshik, due to the similarity in postulations to a greater extent, and though the differences will be explained at the particular context. So, we will begin from the Tattva Mimamsa. First one, Tattva Mimamsa of Nyaya Vaisheshik. जहाँ जहाँ similar होगा, we will go in agreement, and wherever there would be an exception, we would present it. कहाँ exception है? So, first thing I explained you the meaning of Tattva Mimamsa, and Tattva in Sanskrit, the term is used to denote the basic substances of the creation, and the term Mimamsa means to analyze. Thatness and analyze. So, you are going to analyze thatness, that means existence, that is Tattva Mimamsa. The ontology is the systematic study of the object of cognition in philosophy, where we are putting it in comparative mode. So, now what is the number of objects of cognition? There are 7 categories of existence which can be called as object of cognition in Vaisheshik. पहले क्या रखा? वैशेषिक. 7 categories. Vaisheshik system accepts 7 objects of cognition. This number is 6 in the Nyaya system. Then that means there is 1 less in the Nyaya. अब क्या less है? These categories are known as padarth. The word which is used to understand tattva here is padarth, because we are starting from the grossest possible level. I told you the Nyaya Vaisheshik are residing at the lowest possible level. So, अभी ये subtler और subtlest के तरफ move करने के लिए कहाँ से शुरुआत करेंगे? The grossest level, and that's why the word which is used by them is padarth to identify the substances. Whatever padarthas are there, they can be classified like this. This is the word. Technical word. Padarth word is a technical word of this system. Because of being 7 in number, Vaisheshik system describes it Sapta Padarth. So, in the Vaisheshik Sutras, you will find the concept of Sapta Padarth. 7 Padarth hai in the Vaisheshik Sutra. Nyaya system does not accept 1 Padarth, that is Abhav, and in the category of existences. So, the number of objects of cognition in the Nyaya system becomes 6. So, 7 is the number of objects in Vaisheshik. 6 becomes the number in Nyay. What is less? Abhav. Abhav is not accepted by the Nyay system. That means the scholars of the Nyay system were not accepting Abhav as Padarth. अब अभाव क्या है आगे चल के देखते हैं एक एक करके. We will go one by one. So first of all you need to know the numbers. Just list the numbers. On one side you have objects of cognition, prameya. On the other side you have pramad, means of cognition. Prameya are द्रव्य, गुण, कर्म, सामान्य, विशेष, समवाय, देन अभाव. 7 किसके हिसाब से? वैशेषिक. द्रव्य, गुण, कर्म, सामान्य, विशेष, समवाय एंड अभाव. द्रव्य आर 9 in number as per वैशेषिक. गुण are 24. कर्म are 5 types. सामान्य is of 2 types. Vishesh can be infinite. Samavaya is only 1 and Abhav can be of 4 types. This is the understanding of Vaisheshik scholars. On the second side, there are 4 means of cognition by both the systems. Nyay, Vaisheshik, both accept the 4 number. Pratyaksh, Anuman, Upaman, Shabd. Pratyaksh means direct perception. Anuman, inference. Upaman, comparison or resemblance. Shabd, verbal testimony. This is the basic understanding about objects of cognition and means of cognition. We are going to elaborate this understanding. First one. First is Padarth term is used to identify categories of existence. Now the categories you can see. First is Dravya. क्या है द्रव्य? So there are 9 द्रव्य like आकाश, वायु, अग्नि, जल, पृथ्वी. पंचभूत, काल, दिक्, आत्मा, मनस. 4. So total 9. आकाश, वायु, अग्नि, जल, पृथ्वी आप जानते हैं क्या है ये? Substances हैं. Available in each of us. Even this table is also having the 5 constituents. ठीक? काल is time. Dik is direction. Atma is what? Here. Is the substance which can be understood as consciousness right now. क्योंकि हमारा topic क्या है? Science of consciousness in ancient India, the title of the course. So the concept of consciousness was understood by the Nyaya scholars also. शुरुआत में ही उनको identify था कि there is some kind of energy which is the root cause of being alive, or which is the root cause of all kinds of functions. So because of which functionality comes into existence, that is consciousness. This was identified by the Nyaya scholars also, but they use the word Atma for the particular understanding. Remember, Atma is not equals to spirit and this is not equals to soul. दोनों ही चीज़ें गलत हैं. एग्ज़ाम में अगर आपने अपने गूगल गुरु की सहायता लेके उत्तर लिखा तो हम उसमें बहुत खुशी खुशी 0 देंगे. समझ में आया? क्योंकि ये नहीं है. आत्मा, once you understand the concept of Atma, that means consciousness, then it is not going to be equal to the spirit and soul. I will deal in detail what it is. Why you cannot translate these words. Good. There are 24 gudas. 24 properties. For example, Shabd, Sparsh, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, 5 properties. Among the 24, 5 are there. You need not to remember the list. That's why you have to remember the number 24. Now, karma, actions, possible actions. So, there are 5 possible actions. First is upward movement, downward movement, expansion, compression, and then last is locomotion. So 5 possible types of actions are there. They are listed as karma. Samanya, general characteristics. The word samanya is used to identify general characteristics which are present in any of the substance. So there are 2 types of samanya. First is, you can say, parasamanya, and second is apar samanya. पर क्या है और अपर क्या है? Once you have a limited categorization like general characteristics which are residing in a larger area of a speculation, they are known as parasamanya. For example, Homo sapiens दिस इज द नेम. क्या है साइंटिफिक नेम, क्या है, किसका है ये? होमो सेपियंस, ह्यूमंस का. सो दिस वर्ड होमो सेपियंस, होमो इज डिनोटिंग जीनस, which means that larger group consists of the same characteristics. यही डिनोट कर रहा है. सो होमो इज पर सामान्य, larger category identifying the general characteristics. Then you move to the those general characteristics which are residing in somewhat smaller area of speculation in comparison to the genus. For example, if you say Homo sapiens sapiens, then Homo becomes genus, species, then sapiens is, then yes, exactly, that becomes a subspecies. So here sapiens and again the sapiens is which is denoting a smaller group than the larger one, that is genus, consists of the same characteristics. So sapiens becomes upper samanya. That means in a broader category you are putting up a smaller one. Within a broader category also you are putting a smaller one. So the broader one is par samanya, the smaller one is upper samanya. This goes on as much as you classify. एक broad, उसके अंदर एक small, then again in the small again there is a smaller one, then again in the smaller one next come there the second smaller one. So you can categorize like that. The bigger one will always be the upper one, and the smaller one would be called as the upper one. You can take any of the examples, but whenever you are identifying general characteristics, like you are different from the table and chairs. Why? Because of some general characteristics that are available to the humans, not to the chairs or the tables. So general characteristic is samanya. Samanya is of two types, par and upper. Clear? Then vishesh. There is some kind of special identities, special characters. So differential characteristics present among different substances is vishesh. They help us to differentiate one from another, and they can be infinite. See the number. You cannot actually list the number. कितनी चीज़ें अलग हैं. Within the Homo sapiens also, you all are the Homo sapiens. फिर भी क्या है? Not the two individuals are the same. Color of the eye, color of the hairs, color of the clothes, color, length, height, everything. Smallest possible character is not going to be the similar one. So there are differences among the same larger general group also. So the differential entity is the special characteristic which actually differentiates one entity from the other. These are vishesh, and they cannot be listed because they are infinite. For example, color of the hairs of the human being differs from the others, which help us to differentiate one from the other. This is the for example. In the same way, the next one is samavaya. What is samavaya? It is the eternal property. There are few things which are in eternal relationship with each other. For example, the eternal property present in all and remains all the time same. The eternal property are in the permanent relationship in all the substances, permanent relationship, and they would be available in all the substances all the time. The permanent relationship means that the two or more than two properties are mutually dependent. Mutually dependent. That means on the destruction of one, the other would also be destructed. For example, in Sanskrit we use the suffix twa to denote this samavaya relationship. You can see, like first example, humans have humanity, pot consists of potness, cloth has clothness. In Sanskrit, manushye manushyatvam, ghate ghatatvam, pate patatvam. That means here the second entity is so abstract, so subtle, that it is in eternal relationship with the possessor. Once you destroy this object, this is also going to be destroyed automatically. If you destroy this pot, potness would be destroyed. The clothness would be destroyed. So two or more than two properties, if they are in eternal relationship with the substance, they are known as इन समवाय रिलेशनशिप. समवाय का मतलब है कि एक के डिस्ट्रक्शन होते ही दूसरी खत्म हो जाए. So if you are lacking in humanity, that means you are not human. Human is destructed. If you are lacking humanness, if that means human is no more. Simple. The one destruction of one is responsible for the destruction of other. This is समवाय relationship और समवाय तत्व और पदार्थ as per न्याय वैशेषिक. So here humanity, potness, clothness reside in their substratum with eternal relationship, and that's why they are in samavay sambandh. Now last, the seventh one, which is differentiating between the Nyaya Vaisheshik. Nyaya do not accept abhav, but Vaisheshik scholars accept abhav. What is that? Absence of something. It can be classified into 4 types. Absence of something. First is prag abhav. Prag matlab prior. So there is no picture in this slide. In this slide there is no picture. So from the beginning there is an absence of a picture on the slide. Clear? So starting से कोई चीज़ नहीं है, वो हो गया absence prior of existence. Second is pradhvansh abhav. There is absence of a building which was destructed last year. So because it was in existence at some point of time, but it was destructed last year, so now there is an absence of that building. After destruction there is some kind of absence. So pradhvansh का मतलब होता है destruction. प्रध्वंस हो जाने के बाद जो अभाव आएगा वो है प्रध्वंस अभाव. Absence after destruction. Mutual absence. Anyonya abhav. Anyonya means mutual. There is an absence of duster on this table while it is present on the other one. So if there is the absence of the duster on this table, but that on that table there is a presence of duster, you can say in comparison of other table there is absence. So this is mutual absence. एक चीज़ एक जगह पे है लेकिन दूसरी जगह पे नहीं है, ये है mutual absence. Absolute absence. Fourth one, atyant abhav. Atyant means absolute one. There are no horns on the rabbit. If I say sasha vishada, so vishada means horn and shash means rabbit. Clear? So there are no horns on the rabbit. किसी ने देखे rabbit खरगोश के horn, खरगोश की सींगें देखी है किसी ने? नहीं होती हैं क्योंकि वो कभी नहीं थी. So that is in absolute absence. Atyant abhav. So these are the 4 possible types of absence. Prag abhav, pradhvans abhav, anyonya abhav, and last one is atyant abhav. You can write in English also absence prior of existence, absence after destruction, absence, mutual absence, and the last one is absolute absence. 4 तरह की absence हो सकती है. But न्याय scholar does not accept this abhav as an object of cognition. प्रमेय पदार्थ के रूप में वो इसे स्वीकार नहीं करते. This was brought up by वैशेषिक scholars. This is the difference between न्याय वैशेषिक with regarding, or you can say with the reference of प्रमेय मीमांसा. You can say तत्व मीमांसा. Now come to the main contribution, because logic based system hai. So the logic, example of the logic where the scholars of Nyaya and Vaisheshik both were in agreement. Causation theory, karya karan siddhant, cause and effect relationship. This has been explained by the system as causation theory, and the discourse says that there is always a cause for each and every effect. So cause is the reason, cause or the karan. In Sanskrit we use karya for the effect and karan for the cause or reason. So this reason can be of the 3 types, because each effect is preceded by a cause. If there is a cause, then there would be an effect. This is the relationship between cause and effect. So 3 तरह के cause हो सकते हैं. First one, material cause, जिसको संस्कृत में क्या कह रहे हैं, समवायी कारण. Second is immaterial cause, असमवायी कारण, negate it. Third is instrumental cause, निमित्त कारण. निमित्त means instrumental. So you can see first one samavai, that is material cause. The permanent or eternal cause is known as material cause. For example, thread of a cloth. So a weaver is creating or generating a cloth. आप create कर रहे हैं, एक कपड़ा बुन रहे हैं, बुनकर कपड़ा बुन रहा है, लेकिन किससे? धागे से, thread. So from the thread the cloth is being created. If you destroy the thread, cloth will be destroyed. So this is the samavai karan, eternal relationship, permanent relationship. You destroy one, other would be destroyed automatically. This is samavai karan. Second is immaterial cause, asamavai. This cause which is not in permanent relationship with the material, that is immaterial cause or asamavai. For example, you brought a suit white in color, clear? You gave it to the person to dye it in a red color. So color of the thread which gives the color to the cloth is not in permanent relationship. एक कलर का कपड़ा दूसरे कलर के कपड़े में कन्वर्ट हो जाता है. इसका मतलब कलर जो है वो समवायी कारण नहीं है. एक ही कपड़ा, एक ही थ्रेड कई कलर ऑक्यूपाई कर सकता है. Both are not in eternal relationship. This is asamavai. Third is nimitta karan or instrumental cause. The one who becomes instrument in different processes. For example, the weaver of the cloth, or if you are a potter and you are trying to generate that pot, so the one who is doing that task is the instrument, instrumental cause. So the weaver of the cloth or the potter, they are the instrumental causes. So in the same way, suppose if you are a potter and you are using a kind of big long, you can say dand. Dand क्या होता है? Dand. In Sanskrit we use the word dand. Punishment. और दंड किसको कहेंगे? Stick. So लंबी सी जो stick लेकर के वो चाक पे घुमाता है. That is also instrumental cause. With the help of that, some process is going to be completed. That is nimitta karan. So basically causation theory first of all says there is always some kind of cause behind every effect. And second thing, there are three possible causes. One is eternal one, that is material cause, samavai. Second is asamavai, and last is nimitta or instrumental cause. This is the theory of causation. Now you come to the understanding of pramad mimamsa, because tattva mimamsa you have done it. Objects of cognition, it's that the how they presented the prameya padarthas, that is done. Now how they dealt with the pramad, ये सारी चीज़ें जानेंगे कैसे? समझ तो गए कि ये categories हैं, but how we perceive them, how they become the part of our cognition, that is dealt in the pramad mimamsa. So they accepted four pramadas. First of all, they classified the pramad. You need to understand the meaning of pramad. I have explained it previously also. Pramad means mode of cognition or means of cognition, and mimamsa defines analysis. So pramad mimamsa is the understanding of the object of cognition. The systematic study of the means of cognition in philosophy is known as epistemology. Scholars of Nyaya and Vaisheshik system both, they classified pramad in two categories. First thing, I explained in the last lecture, when we acquire knowledge, knowledge is termed as pramiti, correct. So they classified whatever we are going to achieve as a knowledge can be valid or invalid, prama and aprama. Now they tried to explain four valid means of cognition, then they listed the invalid means of cognition. Direct perception, pratyaksh, inference, anuman, comparison, upaman, verbal testimony, shabd. These are valid. Invalid, memory. When you recollect something, there are chances of making errors. Doubt. In the case of doubt, error is automatically invited. Error is itself becoming an invalid means of cognition. For example, I gave you in the last lecture 9.8 and 8.5. ये जो error आती है because of instrument, because of something else, error. Hypothetical reasoning, tark, वो तर्क को भी कहाँ रखते हैं? इनवैलिड में. दीज आर नॉट द वैलिड मीन्स ऑफ कॉग्निशन. अब एक एक करके इन्हीं को समझना है कि क्यों रखते हैं, रीज़न क्या है. यू कैन सी द डायग्राम. Knowledge can be classified as valid, invalid. For the knowledge we have the word pramiti, correct. Valid, prama. Invalid, aprama. Direct perception, pratyaksh. Inference, anuman. Comparison, upman. Verbal testimony, shabd. ठीक है. Memory, smriti. Doubt, संशय. Error, पीछे भी देखा. एरर का संस्कृत वर्ड नहीं देखा. ये क्या है? विपर्यय. ये बहुत आएगा योग सिस्टम में, इसीलिए याद रखना होगा, तब आपको सबसे ज़्यादा जरूरत पड़ेगी. हाइपोथेटिकल रीजनिंग, तर्क. सो दिस इज द चार्ट. वन बाय वन दे आर गोइंग टू एक्सप्लेन. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल परसेप्शन, डायरेक्ट परसेप्शन. So direct perception occupies foremost position. I told you, if you have seen something or you have heard something, you have tasted something, you are very much sure about it. कि मैंने खुद देखा है, ये मेरा खुद का एक्सपीरियंस है, डायरेक्टली परसीव किया है, so it cannot be invalid. You are completely sure about it. So this is very strong evidence, foremost position रखता है. Perception is defined as non-erroneous, that means a valid cognition, which is produced by the intercourse of our sense organs with the objects. So senses are in direct contact with the objects. That's why you are so sure. Perception can be of two types. Now direct perception is classified into two parts. First is ordinary. Second is extraordinary. Lockic and alockic. Lockic is ordinary and alockic is extraordinary. When you are perceiving something through any of the five senses, that becomes ordinary perception. You are seeing something, you are seeing the slide, so this is direct perception, ordinary perception. You are listening sounds, that is ordinary perception. So this eyes, nose, ears, skin, tongue, these are the organs, sense organs, and when you talk about senses, they become subtle. So any of the any kind of knowledge which is received through senses becomes five senses, becomes ordinary direct perception. If you move to the extraordinary, कुछ students होते हैं ना, they say like my sixth sense dominates. I am having gut feeling about it, but I am sure about it. Extraordinary direct perception कैसे आता है? Three possible types. First is सामान्य लक्षणा, second is ज्ञान लक्षणा, and third is योगज. सामान्य लक्षणा means perceiving generality from the particular object. You have seen some object, and because this object is each object is having some kind of सामान्य characters, like if you are seeing a baby of a human being, तो आपको पता है कि ये मनुष्य का बच्चा है. कैसे? Because of the general features, general characteristics. So if you are identifying some object and on the basis of some object, you are so sure about the knowledge that it is the baby of a human, then she or he is the baby of a human. That means you are perceiving generality from a particular object. This is सामान्य लक्षणा. अरे सामान्य रूप से मनुष्य का बच्चा ऐसा ही दिखता है, आप इतना एकदम वैलिड होंगे, कोई डाउट नहीं होगा आपको. और अगर कोई उसे कहेगा कि नहीं आप गलत हैं, तो आप उसको सिखा भी देंगे कि नहीं मैं गलत नहीं हूँ, देखो. You can give the evidences for that also, because you are perceiving generality from particular object. This is सामान्य लक्षणा, but this is not coming through a direct intercourse of the senses. डायरेक्ट इंटरकोर्स से नहीं आ रहा है, ये आप जनरलिटी परसीव कर रहे हैं तब आप उस चीज़ को बता पा रहे हैं. दिस इज सामान्य लक्षणा, बट इट इज एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी परसेप्शन. सेम थिंग ज्ञान लक्षणा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, you when one sense organ can also perceive the qualities not attributable to it, as while seeing a chili, one knows that it would be bitter or hot. आपने केवल मिर्च देखी, आपके सामने एक रेड चिली रख दी गई. So if you are seeing that red chili without tasting the chili, you can come to the you immediately jump to the conclusion that it is very hot. बहुत ज़्यादा बिटर होगी या तो हॉट होगी, तीखी होगी। कैसे? अभी तो आपने टेस्ट भी नहीं की। सो देर इज नो डायरेक्ट इंटरकोर्स ऑफ द एनी ऑफ द सेंसेस, 5 सेंसेस आर नॉट वर्किंग, उनका डायरेक्ट इंटरकोर्स नहीं है ऑब्जेक्ट के साथ, still you are able to conclude to a valid knowledge, that is extraordinary perception. Third one, when certain human beings from the power of yoga can perceive past, present and future, have supernatural abilities or either complete or few, that becomes possible because of the yoga, because of the magnification of one's own energy. So these are the 3 possible extraordinary perceptions. So they classified direct perception into 2 parts. First is ordinary, second is extraordinary. After this understanding of direct perception, they moved to the stages and explained that this perception is not only coming in a single flow. ऐसा नहीं है कि the moment you are seeing something, immediately you recognize it. No. For example, if there is there is a friend coming to you, but the distance is very much, बहुत दूर से आ रहा है, far distance, the friend is coming from a far distant place and you are seeing from a distance, and at the first instance you identified there is someone, कोई आ रहा है, somebody is coming, you won't be able to identify who is coming. So at the first instance we are not sure about the attributes of the object. Once the object comes in the range of our senses, then we start identifying, oh this is my friend, this is my roommate, oh this is my classmate, acha this is Ram. So you are attributing, you are actually linking the attributes of the object with the object itself when it comes in the range of your senses. So at the first instance, whenever you perceive something, that is known as nirvikalp, indeterminate, without any determination. You are not sure who is coming, who the or what type of what kind of object it is, who is that, you are not sure about it. No determinations means indeterminate. In Sanskrit we use the word nirvikalp. निर्विकल्प का मतलब ही है कि अभी आपको पता नहीं चल रहा कि वो क्या है. विकल्प मतलब ऑप्शनल नॉलेज. For example, you have different names. So I can say Ram, Mohan, Shyam, these are the vikalpas. And whether the person coming is Ram or Mohan or anyone else, that is the knowledge needed to be addressed or identified. But at the first instance, you are not able to identify surely who is coming. That is indeterminate knowledge. In the second instance, you become sure about it. That becomes savikalp. अब आपने क्या कर दिया, उसके attributes को उसके साथ join कर दिया. So savikalp. Sa means with, nir means without. So without attributes and with attributes. If you are perceiving an object without attributes, there is something, you would say like that. That is indeterminate direct perception. If you are able to link the attributes with the objects, that is savikalp, determinate direct perception. And these are the 2 stages. Remember, in the examinations, don't get confused. 2 stages of the direct perception. First would be indeterminate, then you would come to the determination, savikalp. So nirvikalp and savikalp are the 2 stages of direct perception. If you are asked 2 types of direct perception, 2 types, 2 stages क्या हैं, savikalp, nirvikalp. 2 type कौन कौन से हुए? Ordinary, extraordinary. Remember, दिमाग खोल के रखिएगा. In the examination, if you are being asked like 2 types of direct perceptions, that is ordinary, extraordinary. 2 stages of direct perception, determinate, indeterminate. First is indeterminate, then you are reaching to the determinate. Savikalp, nirvikalp. Then come to the inference part. Inference is whole of the research methodology that is available presented to us by the Nyaya Vaisheshika scholars itself. Anuman, inference, and inference they are classifying inference in 3 basic categories. First one, 2 types of classification, 2 तरह के classification है. पहला, inferring an unperceived effect from the perceived cause. Whole of the inference is based on the causation theory, cause and effect. if you are inferring an unperceived effect from a perceived cause, to understand all the three together, you need to focus on the single example. Rain. There are clouds and it may rain. ठीक है, ये आपने सोच लिया है, ये आपका सेंटेंस है. So here who is the cause? What is the cause? There are clouds, it may rain. So what is the cause? Clouds. What is the effect? Rain. Keep this sentence in the mind, you will understand all the three. Inferring an unperceived effect from a perceived cause. You are seeing that there are, perceived cause means clouds. You are seeing dense clouds in the sky. So you are inferring it may rain. ये आपका inference है, आपने अनुमान किया क्योंकि बहुत घने बादल हैं तो बारिश हो सकती है या बारिश होगी. This is a kind of inference. But from what? By perceiving the cause, you are inferring unperceived effect. Second, inferring an unperceived cause from a perceived effect. अब आप राउरकेला में अभी अभी आए हैं अपने घर से. You just arrived at the railway station. ठीक है, take the example. You are just arriving at the railway station, you are just getting out of the train. Now you are seeing water everywhere. ठीक है, सब जगह पानी पानी दिख रहा है. So आप क्या करेंगे? You are perceiving an effect, water. और इतना पानी ऐसा तो है नहीं कि किसी ने फर्श धुल करके सारी जगह पे पानी कर दिया होगा, बहुत सारा पानी है. So you are perceiving an effect and you would infer there may be the dark clouds, that's why it rained so heavily. So because of an effect, you are perceiving an effect and you are inferring an unperceived cause. This is शेषवत. पूर्ववत means आपके पास cause कैसा है? Perceived है, but effect कैसा है? Unperceived है. शेषवत means you are having unperceived cause but there is a perceived effect, just reverse of that. सामान्यतो दृष्ट क्या होता है? When inference is not based on causation theory. This is exception to the causation theory. सामान्यतो दृष्ट is based on coexistence. For example, very interesting example from your class itself. Take the examples of the last seat. Few students, two or three students, they coexist. Why? Because if they are absent in the class, they are absent altogether. If they are coming in the class, they are coming together. So वो हमेशा साथ साथ ही दिखाई देते हैं. Because of coexistence, they are always inferred that they would be coming to the class together, they would be absent in the class together. So this is also an inference. This is understood as सामान्यतो दृष्ट, जो कि सामान्य रूप से देखा जाता है, वो inference third category. So we infer on the basis of the three possible things, either on the basis of causation theory, cause-effect relationship, Purvavat and Sheshvat, or because of coexistence. Second classification is like for or to whom you are perceiving, you are inferring, not perceiving, you are inferring. किसके लिए आप inference कर रहे हैं? If you are inferring in within yourself, so it is known as Swartha Anuman. And if you are inferring for others, it is known as Parartha Anuman. Swartha Anuman कैसे है? So there are 5 steps and Parartha Anuman में क्या है? There are 3 steps. The 5 and 3 steps, on the basis of the steps itself, you will understand the complete knowledge about it. 5 steps क्या क्या होते हैं? Total 5 steps. These are the steps of research methodology. So we will discuss till this only, then we will stop. So 5 steps of inference. The first one is preposition or to propose something. Preposition or to propose something means to hypothesize. Once you are hypothesizing something, that is pratigya. So in your research, what you do? First of all, you create a hypothesis. Second is reason. You bring the reason or the cause to prove your hypothesis. In Sanskrit, we use the word hetu. Third is example. You are bringing the example for comparing, that is udaharan. And then you apply it, upanay. So, you apply the example to prove your hypothesis, and last is you conclude, nigaman. To conclude, these are the 5 steps of current research methodology. ये यूनिवर्सल है, ऐसा नहीं है कि आज से 1000 साल पहले रिसर्च करते थे तो ये स्टेप्स नहीं थे. रिसर्च methodology आज ही हमें साइंस ने पढ़ाई है सिखाई है, ऐसा भी नहीं है. So, first thing which is being done here for inferring is to hypothesize. For example, take the same sentence, there are dark clouds in the sky, it may rain. So, first is there will be the rain. This is hypothesis. We are just taking the example, how we can reach to the conclusion. There will be a rain, this is your hypothesis. अभी हुई नहीं है, ठीक है, बारिश अभी हुई नहीं है, आपने hypothesize कर दिया. कैसे किया? Because of a reason. There are clouds in the sky. This is the reason. Because there is, wherever there are dark clouds in the sky, then it rains. Cloud is the reason for the rain. Cause and effect relationship is there. So, on the basis of that reason, you are bringing the example. Yesterday I saw raining from the clouds. Yesterday I have experienced this thing because of through my direct perception. So, I am bringing the same example and applying, then making the application. So, today there are clouds, it will rain. I am applying the same experience from the previous experience, previous direct perception, and on the basis of that I am concluding that there will be rain. So, all the time when we are doing some hypothesis and reaching to the conclusion, we are processing these 5 steps. If you are inferring for yourself, like you are just stepping out of the train and you are seeing that everywhere there is a water. So, you are inferring for yourself, you would not focus on all the 5 steps, you would just focus on the 3 steps. अपने लिए करना है ना, किसी और को बताने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. But if you are trying to make your friend convinced that whatever I am saying, that is the only truth, then you have to use all the 5 steps. The same thing is in the research. If you are doing the research for yourself, you are not requiring all the steps. But if you are presenting the same research to your supervisor or to your examiner, you have to present all the 5 steps properly. This was my hypothesis, this is the cause, and this is the example, this is the application, and this is the conclusion. Hence, I prove my hypothesis. So, in the process of inference or in the process of research, your hypothesis may be proved as valid or may be proved as invalid. There are chances. So, Nyaya Vaisheshik scholars give a detailed account of Anuman where your inference can become invalid, and if the root cause for invalid inference is invalid cause, and they use the word hetu abhas. एक ऐसा आभास which appears like a proper cause, valid cause, but it is not. So, once the condition is like that, your cause is faulty, automatically whole of the inference is going to be wrong, invalid. So, there are chances when our inference can also go wrong, invalid. So, hypothesis हमेशा प्रीजुडाइज और बायसनेस फ्री होनी चाहिए. रिसर्च की ये प्रीरिक्विसाइट है. अगर आप पहले से ही बायस्ड रिसर्च की हाइपोथेसिस में बायस्ड हाइपोथेसिस क्रिएट करेंगे तो बायस्ड एग्जांपल्स लाएंगे, बायस्ड कॉज लाएंगे और फिर उसको बायस्ड ही प्रूव कर देंगे. तो ये चीज़ इन्फरेंस की फॉल्ट होती है. दैट्स वाई इन रिसर्च बायसलेस रिसर्च और बायसलेस हाइपोथेसिस और बायसलेस कॉज और अनफॉल्टी कॉज इज नेसेसरी टू ब्रिंग आउट और टू कंक्लूड टू अ प्रॉपर वैलिड थियरी. This is the perfect understanding about the research methodology. We will discuss little bit more in the next class. So, for this lecture, this is sufficient. Thank you.